Related issues, go online at the BBC website and the Action Line pages.
Morning, gang. It's Breakfast with Zoe.
Vernon here for your listening pleasure.
It's tea time with Sarah. How are you doing out there?
And the night shift with Trevor.
You've come to the right place.
Finally, on your way home.
Crushing that to-do list.
Who's ready for a big tune?
And we're off.
It's me again.
Morning, everyone.
What's up?
Belter.
Classic.
Every single day.
Make every day less every day with BBC Radio 2.
What happened?
Birmingham exploded.
Oh no, you're just a really weird kid, bro.
I want to be a poet.
A poet?
This is some life we live in these rough places, isn't it?
I've got to do something to stop myself thinking nothing is worth doing.
I thought if I wrote the words and you sung them and this skinhead girl wrote the music.
Father's father's trying to call him into the organisation.
If you don't get away, you just become what everybody already thinks you are. I no longer just want this band to work, I need it to work.
I have no idea how this is going to go. We'll take over the old world.
This Town starts Easter Sunday at 9 on BBC One and iPlayer.
At 10 o'clock, the news on BBC One with Sophie Raworth.
Tonight at 10, the search for 6 people missing after a container ship hit this bridge on the east coast of America, sending it crashing into the water. This was the moment it happened.
The whole bridge just fell down. Start, whoever, everybody. The whole bridge just collapsed.
The ship had suddenly lost power and had veered off course. We'll show you how it all unfolded. Also tonight, the baptism of the Clapham chemical attacker Abdul Azedi granted asylum after a judge accepted he was a Christian convert, despite concerns he was lying. On a knife edge, now in extra time, can Wales beat Poland for a place in the Euros? And why North Korea censored Alan Titchmarsh's trousers.
And on BBC London, threatened and attacked while doing their jobs. The shocking abuse targeted at road workers by drivers on the M25. We have a special report.
Good evening. A search operation is continuing for at least 6 people thrown into a river in the US city of Baltimore after this huge container ship collided with a bridge, sending it crashing into the water. Maintenance workers were working on the bridge when it happened in the early hours of the morning. 2 people were pulled from the freezing waters. Rescuers are now using sonar to search the wreckage for the missing. In the minutes before the crash, it's thought that the container ship had lost power. Well, in a moment, Rebecca Morell will take a step-by-step look at exactly what happened. But first, we have correspondents on both sides of the bridge in Baltimore. Gary O'Donoghue is on the east side and Sumi Somaskanda is on the west. Sumi, first of all, the progress so far of the rescuers?
Sophie, there is a massive search and rescue operation underway. It's going to continue into the night. As you mentioned, they are using sonar detectors to try to more precisely locate where those missing workers might be. We have also learned that FBI divers have joined those rescue and recovery boats and that they are using robotic cameras to also try to locate where those missing workers might be. Now, a law enforcement source who told us that information was not able to say whether there was one or more divers in the water at this moment, and that is because of the jagged debris. You have to remember that massive chunks of metal from this bridge fell right into the river, really complicating efforts. And that indeed corresponds with what we heard from Maryland Senator Ben Cardin, who we spoke to just about half an hour ago, who told us one of the problems in the search and rescue mission at the moment is precisely that they've really had to maintain a surface search because getting deeper into the water has not been possible because of that debris. So they're going to continue searching, Sophie, but several factors working against them at this hour. That debris, the wreckage from the bridge, but of course also weather. It is very cold, and as the evening moves on, it will of course only get colder, and the water conditions. The water very choppy, murky, making this effort all the more difficult.
And Gary O'Donoghue, I mean, the images are extraordinary. A lot of people are very surprised at just how fast this bridge collapsed.
Yeah, Sophie, I've been here since before daybreak, and we were talking to people down by the water's edge, out walking their dogs, people who live very close to the river here, and they were in total shock at what had happened. This is a massive landmark in their lives, something they use on a daily basis, and it had simply disappeared overnight. Some heard the crash. They said they felt their houses shake as the bridge went down. Now, of course, the bridge was named after Francis Scott Key, the author who inspired the words for the Star-Spangled Banner. And one woman said to me, it was a symbol, she said, a symbol of America. This is how the day's events unfolded. It's just before 1:30 in the morning, and the 985-foot Dali container ship is heading for the open sea.
Hold all traffic on the Key Bridge. There's a ship approaching, has just lost their steering. So until you get that under control, we got to stop all traffic.
The ship had lost power and was veering straight into one of the bridge's pylons.
C-13 dispatch, the whole bridge just fell down. Start, everybody. The whole bridge just collapsed.
8 members of a construction team working on the bridge filling potholes were thrown into the ice-cold water. 2 were rescued, one of whom is critically ill in hospital. Incredibly, the crew on the ship, realising something was wrong, managed to issue a mayday before hitting the bridge. That allowed the authorities on land to prevent more vehicles from going onto the bridge, unquestionably saving lives. Throughout the night and day, boats, helicopters and divers have been scouring the water for survivors. The authorities vowing to continue the search for as long as it takes.
This is very much still a search and rescue mission. We are still actively looking for survivors. We know, and that's the pledge we've made to these families, and this is still very much an active search and rescue mission.
Local residents were woken in their beds by the sound of the crash, devastated by the sheer scale of the destruction.
My husband does that kind of work, like road work, and to know it could have been his friends, it's scary and it sucks.
It's the Key Bridge, it's a symbol of America. It's very sad, it's very sad.
Local investigators have made it clear they believe this was an accident and have ruled out any kind of terrorist incident.
I've directed my team to move heaven and earth to reopen the port and rebuild the bridge as soon as humanly possible. And we're going to work hand in hand with the support of Maryland to support Maryland and whatever they ask for.
For now, the port of Baltimore, one of the 10 largest in the United States, remains closed, and the loss of the bridge severs a key artery for large vehicles on America's eastern seaboard. The impact of this accident will be felt for months to come. Gary O'Donoghue, BBC News, Baltimore.
So why did the ship go off course, and why did this huge bridge come crashing down so easily? Rebecca Morell is here. She's been looking at the sequence of events.
Thanks, Sophie. Well, what do we know about what happened in Baltimore? Data analysed by BBC verifies the ship set off from the port at 1:45 in the morning local time. The Dali is a 300-metre long container ship, and on board were 2 pilots, mariners from the local port with a specialist knowledge about how to guide the vessel out to sea. Now, it was heading towards the central section of the bridge, which is wide enough and tall enough for the ship to pass through, but it veered off course and crashed into this column here. So what happened? Well, in this video, you can see the ship is nearing the bridge, but at 1:24 a.m, the lights go off suddenly, suggesting a major technical fault. A minute later, they come back on again. Now, 3 minutes after this, you start to see the black smoke billowing from the ship. And over here, where you can see this circle, are the construction vehicles. Workers there were fixing potholes on the road. And then moments later, a mayday was issued and you could see the moments of impact and the bridge collapsed.
If you lose power while manoeuvring, there's a possibility you could lose control of the steering of the vessel momentarily. There are regulations as to how quickly you have to be able to regain that control if that does happen. But obviously, in such a confined area, those seconds or minutes can make the difference between having a collision or not.
So why did such a large part of the bridge collapse? Well, the bridge opened in 1977 and at its centre is a continuous section spanning 366 metres long. There are 4 supporting columns underneath it. Now, bridges are tested for impacts, but we don't know if calculations would have included a vessel of this size. Ships are a lot bigger now than they were in the 70s. The head-on collision took out an entire load-bearing support. Now, protective reinforcements can be added to these, but it's not clear if they were here.
You have a long element that's supported by 4 supports, and you're simply removing one of them. I could not imagine another situation where a bridge like that would resist such a massive force.
A major search effort is still going on, using sonar to try and locate any vehicles that fell into the 15 metres of water below. And an investigation into the tragedy has already begun. Sophie.
Rebecca, thank you. New details have emerged about how the Clapham chemical attacker Abdul Ezedi gained asylum in the UK despite being a convicted sex offender. Ezedi attacked a woman and 2 children in the street with a corrosive substance in January. His body was later found in the River Thames, ending a police manhunt. Our Home Affairs correspondent Daniel Sanford reports.
In the aftermath of his savage attack on a mother and her 2 children, Abdul Ezedi fled across London. The corrosive substance he'd used in the attack had also scarred his own face, and within hours he'd jumped into the Thames from Chelsea Bridge, his body emerging almost 3 weeks later.
Until now, we've only been able to report sketchy details of Ezedi's multiple attempts to claim asylum and his sexual offending history. But now, at the request of the BBC and other media companies, the Immigration Tribunal has released this detailed case file.
The dossier shows Ezedi arrived from Afghanistan in 2016. His initial asylum claim was turned down very quickly and his appeal refused the next year, with the judge saying his story was a mass of inconsistencies, but he wasn't removed from the UK. In 2019, he made fresh submissions, this time including these photographs showing him being baptised at Grange Road Baptist Church in Jarrow. Again, he was turned down. By now, he'd been convicted of sexual assault and was on the sex offenders register, so the church made him sign this safeguarding contract. In it, he agreed he'd only enter the church when accompanied by a named male member of the congregation. But at his appeal in October 2020, the former minister from the church gave evidence saying Ezedi's conversion was genuine, and a judge granted him asylum the next month. And so, 7 years after arriving and after multiple refusals of asylum, Ezedi had won and was still in the UK this year to carry out the attack. In an ironic twist in the tale, when Abdul Ezedi was buried a fortnight ago, as these exclusive pictures given to the BBC show, it was a Muslim ceremony at the request of his friends and family. Daniel Sanford, BBC News.
Fighting continues in Gaza despite the UN's call for an immediate ceasefire. Israel has recalled its negotiators from mediation talks in Doha, claiming discussions with Hamas are at a dead end. Hamas is now demanding a complete withdrawal of Israeli forces from Gaza before any hostage release negotiations can begin, something Israel has branded delusional. Our international editor, Jeremy Bowen, reports from Jerusalem.
This was Gaza, the morning after the UN Security Council voted for a ceasefire. Israel's military released this video and said it pounded Gaza with 60 more airstrikes on what it always calls terror targets. And more Palestinians were killed, civilians according to the survivors who came to the hospital in Rafah to say their last goodbyes. They went to bed hoping for a ceasefire, says Ala Abdul Latif. She lists the names of 9 dead children. The oldest was 8. In the night, everyone she cared about, 30 close family, were killed. Mahmoud Sharab says, what Security Council? What will they do? Massacres one after the other, no matter what they say. They prayed for the family, for the dead children, some of the bodies reduced to fragments of flesh and bone. In Jerusalem, vigils continue for Israelis missing from family dinner tables since Hamas took them hostage on the 7th of October. The people taken and killed by Hamas dominate minds and the news in Israel. I asked Israelis outside their parliament about America's decision not to block the ceasefire resolution, starting with Yehudit and Esther.
It's a shame for the Jewish. Israel and America is friends. And they don't support us. We think that they leave us alone.
They had a brief disagreement with Katya. Like many Israelis, she blames Prime Minister Netanyahu, known here as Bibi.
Bibi, he is the one that he provoked Biden all the time. Biden is our friend. I like him very, very much. And he helped us. This is Bibi's resolution. Bibi decided to provoke Biden until the US will not, how do you call this?
Vote
against.
Yeah, they abstain.
Yeah, abstain. Yeah, this is what Bibi wanted to do.
So you feel more alone here?
I feel much more alone in here, yes. I feel much more alone.
Israelis overwhelmingly support the war and the way it's being fought. Many don't believe Gazans are starving. But a big majority is fed up with Prime Minister Netanyahu, who they believe puts his own career ahead of their security.
Israel's fighting this war against the background of a severe domestic political crisis, a growing sense of international isolation and significant damage to its most important alliance with the United States. Now, Israel's wars are usually short and sharp and mostly victorious. So far, this war is not. Jeremy Bowen, BBC News, Jerusalem.
The BBC's Director General says the corporation will launch its biggest ever consultation process next year on the future of the BBC so that the public can drive the debate. Tim Davies said it was right to ask fundamental questions about the licence fee's longevity in a world that is now full of choice. Here's our media editor, Katie Razzle.
Got some intel for you from the prison.
Nearly 12 million people watched Happy Valley.
I'm a traitor.
The Traitors was one of the most talked about shows on British TV.
This remains one of the toughest processes around.
And old stalwarts like The Apprentice still bring an audience. But in a world of rapidly changing media habits, do we still need a licence fee funded BBC? The government says it wants a new model. Director General Tim Davies today championed the BBC's role in public life, but signalled he is open to licence fee changes.
We will proactively research how to reform the licence fee post-2028, looking at its scope, how it could be more progressive, and making sure its enforcement is fair and proportionate.
It felt like you were the first Director General to question the future of the licence fee. Are you signalling its end?
I do think that absolutely we need to be universal, to be independent, and I believe in a non-commercial offer in the UK. It's precious, you know, free from advertising. And we have reformed the licence fee over time. We've made changes, we've developed it, we've gone through radio, television, all the various eras of the BBC. It's absolutely right that we ask those questions as we go forward.
A time traveller came to call.
But as a recent deal with Disney over Doctor Who shows, the licence fee can't pay for it all. And so there was also a commitment to more commercial deals. You talked as well about boosting the BBC's commercial income. How do you plan to do that?
Yeah, we've actually got a very good record in the BBC of appropriately commercialising the BBC. So I'm not talking about advertising on UK services or
That's never going to happen.
Anything, not on my watch. the fact we've grown a commercial arm that's nearly $2 billion in revenues, which allows us to do deals like the Disney deal, to invest in shows like Doctor Who. That makes total sense.
More commercial deals will save the licence fee payer money in the long term, says this media analyst.
So he's talking about really making the most of BBC creative content and finding the most imaginative ways to finance that. And we can only be in favour of that because that will, of course, keep the licence fee down.
Tim Davie also announced a further £200 million of cuts to the BBC. In his most political speech in recent times, he called the government's decision to strip money out of a key public institution particularly short-sighted. Katie Razzle, BBC News.
Buckingham Palace says the King and Queen will join other members of the royal family at the Easter Sunday service held at St George's Chapel in Windsor. It will be the King's most significant public appearance since he was diagnosed with cancer earlier this year. Rishi Sunak has carried out a mini reshuffle of his team after the resignation of 2 government ministers. Luke Hall has replaced Robert Halfon as Education Minister after he unexpectedly stepped down. And James Heappey has resigned as Armed Forces Minister. Leo Doherty has taken his role. An American journalist who was arrested in Russia a year ago on charges of espionage has had his detention behind bars extended as he waits his trial. Evan Gershkovich, who's a reporter for the Wall Street Journal, is the first Western journalist to face such charges since the fall of the Soviet Union. Outside the court, the US ambassador in Moscow called the accusations against him categorically untrue and fiction. Our Russia editor, Steve Rosenberg, reports.
We weren't allowed in to the Moscow city courthouse. Nothing personal. All journalists were being kept out. Instead, the court released its own video. Just 6 seconds of Evan Gershkovich. A judge ruled he must stay in jail. This week marks 1 year since the Wall Street Journal reporter was arrested in Russia. Evan Gershkovich, the first US journalist here since the Cold War to be charged with spying. He and his employer insist he's innocent.
Deadlines and everything you've got.
So does the US government.
Might be a first step.
It's demanding that Russia let him go.
The message is release him now. He was and is a journalist who was doing his job, doing nothing wrong. The insinuations that he was somehow engaging in some kind of criminal activity is just flat out false.
Last month, Vladimir Putin hinted that Mr. Gershkovich could be freed in a prisoner swap. In return, the Kremlin's thought to want the release of an FSB officer who's serving a life sentence for murder in Germany. No deal yet. If convicted, the US journalist faces up to 20 years in prison. Russian officials no longer hide the fact that Evan Gershkovich is a bargaining chip, someone they would, in theory, be willing to exchange for one of their own, in prison in the West. His fate has attracted worldwide attention, but he is by no means the only American behind bars in Russia. Former US Marine Paul Whelan is serving a 16-year sentence for espionage. America insists he's innocent. Journalist Alsu Kurmasheva holds US and Russian citizenships. She's been accused of spreading false information about the Russian army.
Thousands.
As for Evan Gershkovich, those who know him well just want him home.
We all miss our, best friend. We all miss talking to him all the time, and all his friends feel the same way. They'll have some part of their lives where there's this kind of big hole, this big absence.
Evan Gershkovich is a journalist who loves Russia and loves reporting on Russia. But he remains in a Russian jail. Steve Rosenberg, BBC News, Moscow.
US federal agents who have raided 2 properties in LA and Miami belonging to the rapper Sean Diddy Combs. The hip-hop star and 3-time Grammy winner is facing a number of allegations of sexual misconduct. He's denied all the accusations. Our LA correspondent Emma Vardy reports.
He's one of hip-hop's most influential and richest figures. Originally known as Puff Daddy, and later P. Diddy, as well as his own musical achievements, he's also credited with launching the careers of a number of female artists. Last year, he was accused of years of physical and sexual abuse by his former long-term girlfriend. They settled out of court, but 3 other people came forward, bringing lawsuits for sexual misconduct. Now properties he's connected with in LA and Miami have been searched by federal officers. The Department of Homeland Security simply saying it was part of an ongoing investigation.
The raids at this mansion in this exclusive neighbourhood near Beverly Hills follow months of accusations against the rapper. Some alleged victims claim they were drugged and coerced into having sex. The question now is whether the civil lawsuits he's facing develop into criminal charges.
Sean Combs, who's now 54, posted on social media last year that the allegations were sickening and that he would fight to clear his name.
The federal government is very deliberate in when they bring criminal charges, and for them to be executing this warrant now, I imagine this investigation has been going on for months or longer, and they usually do not indict someone, especially someone of this kind of public magnitude, without having all their ducks already lined up. So I imagine it is a very serious case.
This could be a moment of reckoning for an icon of the hip-hop world who made his name as a self-styled bad boy in the industry. Emma Vardy, BBC News, Los Angeles.
Now, the gardener and TV presenter Alan Titchmarsh is not known for courting controversy, but he has caused some upset in North Korea. And it is all because of a pair of trousers that he chose to wear more than a decade ago. Graham Satchell explains.
This
is Alan Titchmarsh, as you've never quite seen him before on North Korean state TV. Look at his jeans. They've been blurred, censored by the North Korean authorities.
Well, it's taken me to the age of 74 to be regarded in the same way as Elvis Presley, Tom Jones, Rod Stewart and co. So secretly, well, very bemused, but really rather chuffed, I think, really.
Alan's jeans haven't been blurred because they're erotic, but because North Korea views jeans as a symbol of American imperialism.
I'm not really a dangerous, subversive imperialist. I'm just a gardener who likes going out and beautifying the landscape. And wherever I can beautify that landscape, I'm happy, even if it's in places where other beautifiers don't get.
Quite what viewers in North Korea make of watching Alan Titchmarsh gardening in blurred jeans is not clear, but they can do so safe in the knowledge that they will not be overly influenced by Western capitalist's greatest anti-socialist bourgeois weapon, the blue jean. Graham Satchell, BBC News.
Now, what a nail-biter for Wales tonight, and it is still going on. They've been playing Poland for a place in this year's Euros. The game went to extra time, and then it went to penalties. Hal Griffiths has been watching it all unfold in Cardiff.
For decades, Wales wandered in the wilderness of world football, failing to qualify for major tournaments, left out in the cold. But the last decade has been different. These fans arrived hoping they could be in line for a third Euros in a row. The stakes were high and connect, until Kiefer Moore's header found Ben Davies a fraction offside. Then the tension started to show in the tackles. Poland.
And so the agony of extra time has turned into the pain of penalties. As I speak, in that stadium behind me, the score 4-all. All the penalty takers from Poland and Wales have hit the mark. Kiefer Moore rattling the bar, but it went in to the relief of the red wall behind him. No one leaving this stadium, 31,000 people in there, crossing their fingers, biting their nails, hoping Wales could do it. But this is uncharted territory for Wales. They've never had to go through extra time and penalties to reach a major tournament. It is, though, looking like it's going to continue. Poland getting their latest penalty. Sophie, I'm not sure how much more this tension I can take.
I was going to say, what is it like there in Cardiff? It must be, I'm watching it here on the screen, and on it goes.
Well, it is bizarre because obviously everyone should be streaming out either in tears of joy or commiseration, but everything's still happening inside the stadium before me. It means so much to these fans, as we said in that report there, decades without going to big tournaments. Lots of people were hoping they'd be on the internet booking their seats in hotels in Germany by now. But I'm hearing big cheers, and I'm hoping that's a Wales goal that's gone in. Fingers crossed.
No, it looks like Wales are out.
Unfortunately, that seems to be it.
Oh.
Well, Sophie, what a horrible way for that to finish for Wales.
What a terrible way for that to finish for Wales. As you say, they were out on penalties. Hal Griffith with the very latest there from Cardiff. Thank you. Ben Rich now with the weather.
I can't follow that, Sophie. So tense here in the studio. The weather's really going to keep us on our toes as well over the next few days. Northern Ireland was looking rather grey earlier on today, and that was a sign of things to come, because as you can see from the radar picture, rain has set in here. We've seen quite a lot of rain across many parts of the UK through the evening, but it is across this eastern side of Northern Ireland that rain is going to keep on coming as we go through tonight. So there is a Met Office yellow warning in force for Antrim and Down. We could see 50 to maybe 70 millimetres of rain in the wettest spots, so that could cause some flooding. Rain and snow over high ground as it moves northwards across Scotland. Cold enough for a frost in northern Scotland. Further south, 5, 6 or 7 degrees to take us into tomorrow morning. So for tomorrow, very unsettled indeed. We'll see some rain and hill snow continuing to move northwards across Scotland. This rain in Northern Ireland, in the eastern side of Northern Ireland, really struggling to clear. And then for England and Wales, it's a day of sunny spells, but heavy, thundery downpours rattling through on a brisk wind. Temperatures 7 degrees in Stornoway, 12 degrees in Hull and in Norwich. And there is more turbulent weather to come, thanks to this big area of low pressure that really fills the whole chart here. Now, this has been named Storm Nelson, named by the Spanish Weather Service for impacts it's going to have in Spain. But as it gets close to our shores on Thursday morning, well, it could bring some really strong winds, gales or severe gales around coasts of the southwest, but very windy elsewhere across England and Wales, even for inland spots. Northern Ireland seeing some rain, Scotland seeing some showers, the north of Scotland mainly fine for England and Wales. Lots of those heavy thundery downpours rattling through 9 to 11 degrees. The Easter weekend certainly starts on a somewhat drier note, not as many showers. It may be that rain returns later in the weekend. There is a lot of uncertainty. Stay with us as we firm up on the details. Sophie.
Ben, thank you. And that's it from us on the BBC News at 10. Newsnight's just getting underway with Kirsty Walk over on BBC 2. On BBC 1, it's time to join our colleagues for the news where you are. Good night.
Sophie, thank you. On BBC London, the shocking abuse faced by road workers. Good evening and welcome. I'm Luxmy Gopal. Road workers threatened while doing their jobs are calling for a crackdown on abusive drivers. Figures obtained by the BBC show hundreds of incidents against highway workers, with some involving knives, machetes and even guns. This special report from Ben Moore.
There's no friends there. Are you backward? Are you backward? Friendly. There's no friendly here.
It's a dangerous job, like the physical side of it. And then you've got all the abuse side of it, which makes it 10 times more dangerous.
I think works in roadworks hasn't experienced road rage or abuse from members of the public.
This is the reality of the day job for our road workers.
The abuse can vary from swearing to physical to one time someone actually pulled a gun out on me.
Sinead had just been laying out cones to close a road when she encountered an irate motorist.
We'd put our lane closure on, just shut one lane of traffic, and he was like, "What do you do?" like that at me. And then with that, he unzipped his jacket and pulled a gun out on us and held it in my face.
And Sinead is not alone.
I've seen a lot of stuff. I've been run over. Objects being thrown, we get urine, dirty nappies, bottles.
The M25-A3 junction is one of the busiest set of roadworks in the UK. 270,000 cars pass through here every day.
We're seeing more and more cars on British roads, and we're seeing a lot more anger and rage when people are driving. We've been doing this a long, long time.
Even during this interview, the cones seem to be a problem for one driver.
Did you see that guy? He just come over the curb. Yeah, that's a common occurrence.
Offences committed at roadworks aren't limited to abusing workers.
Lane incursions is where people ignore road signs and directions, which has literally caused road workers to die for safety and is so dangerous.
Even though experiencing abuse seems to be part of the job, these workers say they'll still be fixing and improving our roads.
It's a job that excites me, it thrills me. I like building things, I like constructing things.
Why do you still do this job if it's so dangerous?
Because I love it.
Ben Moore, BBC London News.
The family of Sabina Rizvi, who was shot dead outside a police station 21 years ago, say they're deeply disappointed after a coroner said there was insufficient evidence that officers should have done more to protect her. She was killed in Bexley Heath in 2003. Although a man was convicted of her murder, her family spent years campaigning for an inquest to examine the police's role on the night she died. An advert supporting the Conservatives' London mayoral candidate, Susan Hall, that featured scenes from New York instead of the capital has been deleted. The Conservative Party's head office has declined to comment. The clip, posted on the party's Twitter or X account, attacked Labour's Sadiq Khan and used footage of a stampede in a New York subway station. The advert's been replaced with a version without the New York scenes.
It's got nothing to do with my campaign. I'm just too busy out there talking to Londoners because Londoners will form what I intend to do as mayor. I'm listening to what people are saying and they are not happy about crime on our streets at all.
We've had the Conservative candidate doing tweets that she's now resigning from, and now she's trying to walk away from this video that's not just doing down London, but it's telling an untruth. And I worry that the Conservatives are trying to hoodwink Londoners by this sort of negative campaign. Look, stop it.
A fish and chip shop owner from South East London has vowed to fight the council over whether this mural on one of its walls should be taken down. Greenwich Council says it's an advert painted without permission. Anna O'Neill reports.
A few years ago, the Golden Chippy in Greenwich hit the headlines as London's best fish and chip shop. But in recent weeks, it's hit the headlines for another reason. A mural painted on one of its outside walls celebrating the Britishness of fish and chips by its Turkish Cypriot owner.
Well, this has got a history, actually. I had an 18-foot one in front of the shop, above the door there, and in the end, I had to give in and take it down. So I thought we'd do a miniature size of it on the wall.
A week ago, street artist Banksy said he was responsible for an acclaimed new mural near Finsbury Park, which has had thousands of visitors. What makes painting on one wall in North London art, while painting on another wall in South London is seen as vandalism? Some have suggested it's the Union flag on this mural that might be the problem. Greenwich Council told us the advert has been painted without any permission in a conservation area close to a World Heritage Site. The council is acting according to the government planning laws, as it would with any unauthorised advert. It went on to say, any suggestions this is because of the Union flag are disingenuous and untrue. Chris isn't giving up his mural yet. Anna O'Neill, BBC London.
Now the weather with Corsa.
Hello, good evening. Well, after quite a wet night so far, we'll continue to see some further rain for a time. And then for tomorrow, well, a dry start to the day, but then we are going to see some sunny spells and some heavy showers in the mix. But for the moment, it's going to continue to become drier overnight with clearer spells and temperatures, well, dipping to around 4 to 7 Celsius. So it does mean for tomorrow morning, initially it's a dry, bright start. There will be some scattered showers, but then we'll start to see this band of showers coming through during the day. Some of these could be heavy, potentially thundery with some hail in the mix. Some sunny spells in between the showers by the afternoon and temperatures reaching around 8 to 11 Celsius. And as we look ahead to the next few days, well, it remains rather unsettled, but it will get milder as we look ahead to the Easter weekend. And that's your forecast for now.
Go to our website for more on the mayoral election. For now, from all of us, good night.
This is where the wave of ambition hits the rock of reality. Your sesame cracker's burning.
I need to stop shaking.
Absolutely ace.
I'm so happy, I just want to dance.
The 20th series of MasterChef starts Easter Monday on BBC One and iPlayer.
The heart's arrested.
Giving 100.
Their care is ultimately in my hands.
There's no easy pass.
Airway secure.
There is no room for panic.
No, stop.
We're a whisker away from failure. You need to be calm.
Shocking.
There are no backup plans. It's about as high risk as it gets.
Surgeons at the Edge of Life starts tomorrow at 9 on BBC Two and iPlayer.
We plan to capture your black excellence at all times, whether that be your activism, incredible artwork, your languages, your sportsmanship, or your... Femi, we know you're black, but we are struggling to figure out what you're actually excellent at.
Yeah.
Why?
I'm sure it'll come.
Borders. Watch now on BBC iPlayer.
So how was your day?
Usual.
Before the new series starts, watch all episodes of Blue Lights on BBC iPlayer.
Billionaire ambition now on BBC One, and a young CEO willing to fake it to make it, based on a true story, The Dropout, a double bill with strong language.
Today, you're taking the